From WCAX Channel 3, the Channel 3 News at noon starts now. News at 5.
The Campaign 2022 debates. Campaign 2022 debates.
After months of fierce campaigning, people across our region decide the candidates and on the issues tonight. Thank you for joining us. I'm Darren Perrin.
And I'm Kat Villianzoni. Polls for Vermont and most of New Hampshire are closing at 7, and in New York they close at 9.
We have live team coverage across 3 states in our region. Our reporters in the field and with the candidates on this crucial election.
And we begin with Catherine Huntley, who's in Barrie.
Catherine, you've been at the polls all day. What have you seen?
Well, Kat and Darren, we're here outside the Elks Lodge in Barrie, where the GOP party headquarters will be this evening. And I went to 3 different counties today, and it was pretty quiet at most of the polls. And poll workers are telling me it's because of so many mail-in ballots this year.
Well, I mean, I served in the military for 32 years, and if you don't vote, you can't complain.
Voters out and about for Election Day 2022. We visited Chittenden, Lamoille, and Washington counties today to catch up with voters.
I voted some Republican and some Democrat. I'm definitely crossing the party lines, and I consider myself a bipartisan person.
You know, I think Vermont has a really strong governor, and I want to support him.
Voters exercising their civic duty to weigh in on who is representing them, along with issues such as reproductive rights.
I've voted in every election since I was 18. I think it's really important as citizens of this country to, get out the vote and get the people we want in office representing us.
With mail-in voting, turnout on the actual day is lower, but for some, they make sure to wait till Election Day to cast their ballot.
I don't particularly like mail-in opportunities because in case there's some breaking news at the last minute, I'd like to be able to factor that into my vote.
The overwhelming theme of what voters were telling us is that they want the country to be more united and that there's too much division. A main reason most we spoke to were at polls on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think this country is really divided right now, and it'd be nice to turn that around and get the right people in office so we're headed in a good direction from this point on.
Now, if you haven't had the chance to vote yet, you still have a couple of hours here in Vermont. The polls are going to be closing at 7 p.m., so you can either head to the polls or bring your ballot that was mailed to your house to the polls to submit. Live in Barrie, Catherine Huntley, Channel 3 News.
Thank you. The end of a nearly 50-year political career for Senator Patrick Leahy means Vermont will have a new senator. Channel 3 political reporter Calvin Cutler joins us live now in Burlington. Calvin, how significant is this race?
Well, Kat, this race is a keystone in a generational shift of power in the U.S. Senate. Now, Democratic Congressman Peter Welch is looking to succeed Senator Patrick Leahy in the upper chamber. Welch has served in the House since 2007 and says he wants to focus on reproductive rights and preserving voting rights. Now, Welch's challenger, Gerald Malloy, is looking to turn this specific seat red, the first time a Republican would have done so since George Aiken. Now, Malloy is a conservative veteran turned businessman who's been endorsed by former President Trump. Senate races are always significant, but this one comes as the chamber is split 50-50 with Vice President Kamala Harris casting tie-breaking votes. Now, Welch is the favorite to win this race specifically, as Vermont has consistently voted blue for federal elections. But Malloy says a new direction for leadership and policy is needed. Welch, of course, will be leaving his Senate seat, or his House seat, open, which has sparked a new race. Christina is here to give a few details about that.
Right, Vermont governor, a popular Republican incumbent, and the Democrat determined to defeat him. Our Ike Ben David is covering this race for us tonight. He joins us live outside the State House. Ike, get us up to speed.
Hey, Darren, how are you? Standing outside the State House right now and focusing tonight on the race for governor, starting first with incumbent Republican Governor Phil Scott, who's been favorable in his 3 terms in office, seeking his 4th this evening, even in the most recent WCAX poll, favorable even by Democrats. Now, he's looking to steer this state into becoming more affordable. And he's doing that while also facing an aging demographic and a workforce crisis. Now, on the other side, the Democratic candidate, Brenda Siegel, she's an advocate who's been pretty challenging she's challenged Governor Phil Scott in this campaign. She's running that there are crises right now that need fixing, like housing and the opioid crisis, something we'll be focusing on all night. and we'll have the results right here on Channel 3. Darren, Kat.
Ike, thank you. Vermonters are electing a new lieutenant governor tonight as well after incumbent Molly Gray opted to run for Congress. But the new lieutenant governor may not be so new. Former Lieutenant Governor David Zuckerman is the Progressive and Democratic nominee, and he is facing Republican Joe Benning. By today's political standards, this has been a congenial race. Zuckerman and Benning spent years together in the state Senate, and they have not really attacked each other. Zuckerman has focused on his experience in the lieutenant governor's job and says he can help get a legislative agenda passed. Benning's pitch to voters is that he and Governor Scott see eye to eye on most issues and that he would be a key ally to Scott in the State House if Scott were to win again.
Well, a much colder day out there than we've seen the past couple of days, but we kept the sunshine around and still felt a little blustery. Even with the sunshine, we've got clear sky out there tonight. That'll continue with quiet weather on the way through Wednesday and Thursday as well. Reason being high pressure and control. It'll also put an end to our gusty winds that we've seen the past couple of days here briefly. Once this area of high pressure moves a little bit further to the east, we'll see more of a southerly wind. Wind will likely pick up again as we get into tomorrow afternoon and Thursday. In the meantime, quiet and cold out there. Temperatures already upper 30s and low 40s. It will be a cold night tonight. Already spots in the mid 40s across the region. 43 in Newport, 42 in St. Johnsbury. A little warmer in southern Vermont in the upper valley, and temperatures will get back up upper 40s and low 50s during the day tomorrow. Temperatures now getting a little chilly under the clear sky. 33 in Saranac Lake, 37 in Middlebury. We'll see lots of teens and 20s for lows tonight. One of the coldest nights we've had so far this season. Clear and cold in Burlington. We're looking for a low temperature dropping down to about 27 degrees. It'll be a cold start tomorrow, but temperatures get back on track by the afternoon. Lots of sunshine, highs in the low 50s. Tell you about some rain on the way for the end of the week. Your Max Advantage forecast coming up.
And thank you. Our election coverage takes us now to New Hampshire. Adam Sullivan is live in Manchester. Adam, not only is our region watching what happens there, but the entire nation, too.
That's right, Darren. It's really three big races we are watching here in New Hampshire, including the race for New Hampshire's 2nd congressional district. The Democrat Annie Kuster is seeking her 6th term in the U.S. House. Businessman Robert Burns is hoping to turn the seat red for the Republicans. Republican Governor Chris Sununu wants another term in Concord, his 4th if re-elected tonight. But the Democrat, State Senator Tom Sherman, who is also a practicing physician, says his pragmatic approach to governing is exactly what the state needs. But really all eyes are on the race for United States Senate here in New Hampshire, which pits a political outsider, Republican Don Bolduc, against the Democrat who is well known to New Hampshire politics, Senator Maggie Hassan. Bolduc has been crisscrossing the state, holding town halls and really hammering away his message on the economy, on what he calls open borders and rising inflation. He often says people are having to choose between, quote, eating and heating, and says politicians like Maggie Hassan need to be held accountable. Hassan, on the other hand, points to her record of lowering healthcare costs and passing the bipartisan infrastructure bill. She's also been going on the offensive, saying Bolduc is an extreme candidate, an election denier, supports a nationwide abortion ban, and wants to do away with Medicare and Social Security. The race has the potential to shift the balance of power in Washington. Really a must-win for the Democrats, and the latest polls has this race very tight. Darren?
Yeah, really key is their supporters getting to the polls, Adam. Both of them really trying hard to get their supporters out there. What has turnout been like?
Yeah, turnout has been reported to be strong and steady across the state. Really, all the elections here in the Granite State will come down to the undeclared voter, whether they turn out, and more importantly, Darren, which way they break at the ballot box. Darren, back to you.
Thank you, Adam.
In New York, voters made their ways to the polls to decide on a range of issues. Channel 3's Rachel Mann spoke with a few of them this afternoon. She joins us live now from Glens Falls with what they say they hope to see happen today. Rachel.
Darren and Kat, many candidates are here in Glens Falls awaiting the results of their races. On our way down here, we stopped in Crown Point and Ticonderoga to ask voters what they are really hoping to see. The stream of people at the polls this afternoon was steady, even in the middle of the day. Many came out saying it's time for real change, specifically citing issues with the rising costs of goods.
I think it's important because of the economy and everything that's going on.
I'm super excited. Everybody should vote. Everybody should vote.
You want to vote on the local issues and your local representatives, and it's important to just use your God-given right.
Some of the races people say they're watching
down that race. Hear from one of those candidates. The polls here in New York close at 9. In Glens Falls, Rachel Mann, Channel 3 News.
Well, stay with us all night long as results come in from Vermont, New Hampshire, and New York. Tonight at 7:30 as well, we'll have wall-to-wall coverage of the midterm election. The latest results, interviews with the candidates, and analysis. So keep it tuned to Channel 3 or join us online at WCAX.com.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Cam Smith. Right now in Vermont, over 68,000 Vermonters are without power. Chittenden County leads with the most outages with 14,000 people. And be where you need to be by 4 o'clock this afternoon to stay ahead of a flash freeze. That's the message from Vermont Governor Phil Scott as an intense winter storm pounds our region. Channel 3's Calvin Cutler is live in Waterbury outside of the Emergency Operations Center. Calvin, what do people need to know?
Well, Cam, it's relatively calm in Waterbury right now, but elsewhere throughout the state, all this morning there has been heavy rain and howling winds, which have been blowing over trees and knocking down power lines, now especially in communities along the Green Mountains. Officials say those power lines can pose a safety hazard as well. Now, the big hazard leaders say, though, will come later tonight. Temperatures are slated to plummet, and water and slush on the roadway will freeze and pose hazardous driving conditions. Now, earlier today, we got an update from state leaders here at the Emergency Operations Center. They say motorists should be off the road by 4 o'clock this afternoon before the roads freeze. Governor Scott says Vermont hasn't seen a storm like this in years.
The severity of the temperature drop, that's what's keeping me up at night, and what that means, because with the power outages means that it'll impact everything in people's homes, whether it be heating, but also water, and just keeping that going, and it could be for days.
Non-essential state offices are closing at 1 o'clock, and Governor Scott says the broader workforce should consider leaving work early too, to stay off the roads before they freeze tonight. Now, expecting power outages, the state is also preparing to open warming shelters. Now, exact details on those and which communities they'll be in depends on where is the hardest hit. Officials say you should visit Emergency Management's website or call 211 to find a location. Now, ultimately, though, leaders say the most important thing that you can do is make a plan with your friends and family should you lose power for multiple days. And also, they stress, be off the roadways by 4 o'clock later this afternoon before temperatures plummet. Reporting live in Waterbury, Calvin Cutler, Channel 3 News.
Calvin, thank you. Stay safe out there. Statewide in New Hampshire, over 52,000 residents without power right now. That's a little less than 10% of the state, again, without power. And in our coverage area of New York, no outages are being reported, but we will keep an eye on that as the day continues. Students back here in Vermont are being sent home from school in Winooski this afternoon. According to the Winooski School District on Twitter, power went out around 9 o'clock this morning. Parents have been asked to go and pick up their children as soon as possible. Parents also being told they need to go inside the building to pick them up. Well, trees toppled down on top of cars and power lines, creating a mess in South Burlington. This was in the parking lot of the new King Church just off of Williston Road this morning. Crews on scene tell us the tree came down just after 8 o'clock, taking down power lines and crashing into the car parked nearby. Over on Millam Court, one resident says he woke up to a loud crash. And throughout the storm, the temperatures have warmed up, even impacting our cameras.
Well, we're kind of pinned in a little bit because of the power line that's down. Yeah, we'll get by. We're not too worried. You know, we're Vermonters.
Well, he says the tree also ripped the lines off of his house, leaving him and his family in the dark since 6:30 this morning. And if you had a flight out of the Burlington International Airport today, make sure you check your listings at the Burlington Airport. Most flights to JFK and LaGuardia are canceled. You can see the flights canceled right now on your screen. Airport leaders say they're still working to keep planes taking off and landing. And on the rails, the concern about falling trees did cause Amtrak to cancel all of their trains scheduled to run in and out of Vermont today. Well, no power plus plummeting temperatures could force some to leave their homes to find shelter. In Milton, they have a plan in the community of 12,000 in case people need a place to stay warm.
I think it's too early to know right now. We will have our emergency operations center set up. The public safety director will be coordinating with the state to set up a shelter. That's part of the state process, opening a shelter. It would be at the Milton High School if it is opened.
Well, there you heard Don Turner. He said this morning there were up to 3,000 people without power in Milton, but a big section of the village has had its power restored as of late this morning. Well, before the rain started up again, there was a rainbow out in the sky. Here are some photos you all sent us this morning when the sky was temporarily clear. Thank you all for sending those in to us. And if you want to share more photos of this or the storm, send them over to us. Head over to WCAX.com or our app and click on Photo Share to upload them. Well, joining us now in studio is Gary Sadowski. Gary, is the worst of the storm over?
You know, the worst of the wind really is over, but we still have more to go, and we've seen a spike in our temperature, helped by that sunshine that we saw that created the rainbows. We're up to 53 degrees right now. That sounds good, but that's the high for the day. We're going to see these temperatures plummet like a rock later on this afternoon as rain changes over to snow showers. I'll let you know what we've seen in the storm so far and what's ahead for the rest of the day. That's coming up in the Max Advantage forecast next.
Aaron, the St. Johnsbury killing is the 23rd homicide in Vermont this year.
Our Cam Smith is at the State Police Barracks in St. Johnsbury, where the media was just updated by Major Dan Trudeau. Cam, what did you learn?
Yeah, Christina and Darren, not a lot of new information coming from state police. They are still actively investigating this 23rd homicide of the year over on 78 Hastings Street here in St. Johnsbury. This was a look at the scene earlier this afternoon. Police were called to the scene at about 9:45 this morning. That was St. Johnsbury police, based on a tip from somebody inside that apartment. And now state police have since taken over that investigation. They did confirm when they arrived on scene that there was one individual inside dead from apparent gunshot wounds. Now, they have not released the identity of the victim, and police say they're not yet ready to release that identity. They also would not speak to a possible motive, but police did say that St. Johnsbury police have been at that location in the past and have made some arrests at that location that were drug related. They were not connecting the two. We still do not have a motive on that at this point. Now, they are saying that it is a targeted incident and they are treating it as a homicide. Folks in the area can expect to see a heavy police presence throughout the evening as state police works to secure a search warrant to get inside that top part of the apartment. For now, live in St. Johnsbury, Cam Smith, Channel 3 News.
That's just about a wrap on Senator Patrick Leahy's 48-year career. The Dean of the Senate is retiring at the end of December and is reflecting on his legacy. Channel 3 political reporter Calvin Cutler is live in Washington, D.C. Calvin, you sat down with the senator. What is he saying as he's stepping away from politics?
Right, Darren. He says it has been a pleasure to serve Vermonters. Now, Senator Patrick Leahy has been walking these halls at the Capitol and deliberating with lawmakers since he was first elected back in 1974. At 34 years old, the Chittenden County State Prosecutor won a long shot bid to become the youngest and first ever Democratic senator from Vermont. Since then, the Montpelier native has been part of history, a roller coaster career from voting to end the Vietnam War to creating farm-to-table programs for students to creating legislation which would ban landmines. Now, we sat down this week with Luke Albee, Leahy's former chief of staff. He says the people who benefit the most from the senator's work may never know it.
You know, it's the Joni Mitchell, you don't know what you got till it's gone. You know, every single community in Vermont, he's left a mark. And it's going to be really hard to replicate that.
Now, by the numbers, Leahy has amassed a historic career, 48 years, 8 presidential administrations, and more than 17,000 Senate votes cast, the second most of all time. However, every choice in the senator's career, it was always a team effort with his wife, Marcelle. Now, coming up tonight in my full report at 6, we'll speak with her about what the past 48 years have been like in Vermont and here in Washington, D.C. For now, reporting live in Washington, D.C., Calvin Cutler, Channel 3 News.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Gassford, in for Darren.
And I'm Kat Villianzoni. Today, former Franklin County Sheriff's deputy was arraigned after kicking a man in police custody. Catherine Huntley was there for the arraignment. What can you tell us, Catherine?
Well, John Grismore was arraigned today on 1 count of simple assault, a misdemeanor stemming from an early August incident where he kicked a man in police custody twice. The incident was captured on camera. Grismore was in plain clothes and kicked the man who was repeatedly standing up. Court paperwork reveals that one of the on-duty deputies who brought the victim in said she believed the kick by Grismore was really aggressive. Now, as Grismore moves through the court system, he is still the only name on the ballot for Franklin County Sheriff in next month's election. State's Attorney Doug DeSabato says the election had no impact on when Grismore was arraigned.
I got the case complete. Months had passed. I got the case complete. I reviewed it as soon as I received it and determined charges were brought. I felt that the passage of time, let's just get the defendant in, get an arraignment, and then the discovery process can begin.
Next steps for Grismore will be a status conference in 60 days. Grismore has told Channel 3 in the past that he believes he did nothing wrong, that he was defending his deputies from getting spit on by the man in custody. And coming up at 6, we speak to the man who's running a write-in campaign for Franklin County Sheriffs. Live in St. Albans, Catherine Huntley, Channel 3 News.
Catherine, thank you. The trial began today for a Ludlow man accused of killing his girlfriend's 11-month-old baby. Prosecutors say it was an act of jealousy, but the defense lawyers say the evidence just isn't there to back it up. Adam Sullivan was in court for opening statements.
He was strangled or smothered or a combination of both.
Carson Rickert was found unresponsive in his bed the morning of January 11, 2018. The 11-month-old was rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. The baby lived in Ludlow with his mother, Abigail Wood, and her boyfriend, Tyler Pullender Savory. Prosecutors say Pullender Savory had both the opportunity and motive for the murder. Police say he was jealous that Wood was looking for another place to live and believed she was rekindling a relationship with the baby's father.
She also decided, as you will hear, that she wanted to get back together with Carson's father.
Pullender Savory is accused of second-degree murder. Several witnesses were called during day 1 of the trial, including Ludlow's police chief, who was first on scene. He asked Pullender Savory what had happened.
Said he got up approximately at 6:45, went in, checked on Carson. Carson was awake. He went out, made formula, milk, brought it back in, then he went in and took a shower.
Police say that's when the boy's mom frantically started telling him to call 911. Both the chief and other first responders noticed bruising, scratches, and swelling around the baby's neck.
I tried to intubate the patient, and I noticed that there was a lot of swelling in the patient's neck. I couldn't visualize the vocal cords.
But Pullender Savory's attorney says the evidence is scant. He says the 11-month-old had fallen out of his bed at least once prior to the incident, and says the baby's mom told police she saw a blanket wrapped around his neck before changing her story.
She started to say, no, there was no blanket near there. There was no blanket involved at all. The blanket had nothing to do with it.
The trial is scheduled to last all week. The baby's mother is expected to testify. At this time, we do not know if the defendant himself will be taking the stand. Reporting from White River Junction, Adam Sullivan, Channel 3 News.
An update now to the case of a missing little girl in New Hampshire. Harmony Montgomery's father has been arrested for her murder and abusing her corpse. This afternoon, the New Hampshire Attorney General said 32-year-old Adam Montgomery of Manchester punched the 5-year-old in the head repeatedly on December 7th, 2019. Then they say he hit her body and tried to convince the girl's stepmother, Kayla Montgomery, to lie about it.
I'm certain that the charges that we have brought forward today will garner additional discussion, speculation, and undoubtedly will elicit a wide range of emotions from the public. I ask that in memory of Harmony, that we all make every effort to do something nice for a child today.
Authorities were first alerted to Harmony's disappearance by her mother in November. Adam Montgomery is expected to be arraigned Tuesday.
The almost nightly reports about labor shortages and renewed tension around immigration policy. We have a story tonight that intersects both issues. It's a story about a police chief who needs officers and willing applicants who can't legally hold the job.
Ike Ben David and producer Daniela Fierro have explored the lives of undocumented migrant farm workers. They headed back to farm country when they heard about this new idea. Ike?
On farms in Addison County and across Vermont are farm workers who aren't from around here. There are migrants from places like Mexico and Central America who came here to the country illegally to find work. They live in the shadows, avoiding law enforcement. But what if these farmhands wanted off the farm? And what if they wanted to be law enforcement? Like many police departments around the state and country,
Lieutenant 8, do you have a description now?
The Middlebury Police Department
White shirt and dark pants.
Beware, there's a warrant for your arrest.
is having a tough time finding new police officers.
You have arrest warrants.
But for what? Our challenge in Addison County is we're a rural county. People are not inclined to move here from other places, and the housing here right now is very tough.
Chief Tom Hanley also points to the loss of public trust in recent years nationwide, stemming from deadly use of force incidents that has decreased interest in law enforcement careers.
Struggling to find applicants who are qualified to do the job.
With his department sitting in the middle of Addison County, known for its farming community, Hanley had an idea last fall, tapping into the population of undocumented migrant workers.
And it came to me as I've got this huge labor pool out there. These folks are looking for opportunity. We're looking for employees. Maybe there's a way we can cross paths together.
Chief Hanley reached out to people supporting the migrant community, and soon after, 3 interested men came in for an interview.
They're all farm labor.
So they know a thing or two about hard work then.
Hard work and struggle. I mean, they're exposed to life things that most of our applicants will never be exposed to.
Hanley says they met most of the initial qualifications to become police trainees.
I'm looking for people with life experience. What can they bring to the table to us to make us a better agency?
And is that the same if I just went in and applied?
Yeah, it's one of the things we look for in our interview process is what can you bring to the table? What are you going to do for us that makes us a better agency, that makes us better able to serve diverse populations?
You spend a lot of time in the backyard here? Tony Rodriguez is one of the 3 people who applied. He moved to Vermont from Mexico 9 years ago and started working on dairy farms.
It's heavy. You have to get up 2 or 3 in the morning.
Rodriguez now works on a hemp farm and says he loves life in Vermont.
Around here, I don't have much friends around here.
And even though he misses his family, he wants to be more a part of the community.
I want to stay because it's good opportunity to make a change. I think 1 year ago I moved to here.
Rodriguez says he is aware of the tension between police and communities of color around the United States, but doesn't want to wait for others to make change. He wants to be part of the change.
No se relacionan mucho con la comunidad.
There's no interaction between the Latino community. There's like a divide that the people have fear. I wish there was more of a relationship with people, that they can feel that police are here to protect them, that they're here to save their lives.
Y para protegerlos, que estás aquí para salvar sus vidas.
As with hundreds, maybe thousands of undocumented workers in Vermont, Rodriguez remains in the shadows. He's employed illegally and risks deportation if caught by federal authorities. But with the state authorities not questioning immigration status, Rodriguez has been able to earn a high school equivalency diploma and obtain a driver privilege card. Now, he'd love the opportunity to earn a badge.
How does Officer Rodriguez sound to you?
Sound good. Yeah, that sounds very good.
Right now, immigration, even the least controversial aspects of it, is like the third rail in U.S. politics.
Brian Sullivan is an expert on immigration law with MSK Attorneys. He says because the 3 migrants came to the country illegally.
But the chief says no one's applying. Does that count?
It seems unlikely becoming cops could become reality, and says the complicated nature of immigration policy won't be changing anytime soon.
I think the chief or whoever's idea this is, his heart is in the right place. This is exactly the kind of thing we need in police departments. But given the fact that they're undocumented, the process would be extremely difficult, would be very long, and there would be no guarantee that it would work.
Either through executive order or through legislation or some way, or help me steer through this.
We're going to walk back to my car, okay?
Back in Middlebury, the chief says with no applications coming in, he still feels this is an answer to his staffing issues and to building trust in the police department.
And if we have somebody from that community that's here that can understand, they can fully articulate what the issues are, I think it'll open a lot of doors.
He knows it's an uphill battle.
The federal impediments, the law, we just can't. I mean, we have to certify that they're citizens or they have their papers, and obviously we can't do that at this point.
So you're the law saying the law is in the way?
Yeah, well, I'm the local law that says the federal law is in the way, and never the twain shall cross, and we can't supersede federal law.
The last major movement toward comprehensive immigration reform was back in 2007 and would have given undocumented people a pathway to living legally in the U.S. Today, there are no serious bipartisan reforms under consideration in Congress. Reporting live in the studio, Ike Ben David, Channel 3 News.
We've introduced you before to undocumented workers on Vermont farms, but they've all been men. Tonight, for the first time, you'll hear from undocumented women.
Reporter Ike Ben David and producer Daniela Fierro learns more about the challenges these women face working and living on Vermont farms that men do not.
We got an opportunity to sit down with two undocumented migrant workers about how their life has changed during the pandemic and issues they face. But what we could shoot with our cameras and show you was restricted, like their daily life.
At 27 years old, Yadira, like most Vermonters, takes time to enjoy her garden and her chickens. Yadira is one of thousands of undocumented migrants who call Vermont home.
I came to Vermont, well, to follow my family.
We sat down with Yadira at her home she shares with her partner and kids. She no longer works here on the farm, but her partner does. Yadira says before the pandemic, life was as normal as it could be for an undocumented migrant working on a farm in the Northeast Kingdom. Then, she needed to undergo emergency surgery.
Tomorrow, the next day, it's going to look really bad.
Because people would say, oh no, news likes to exaggerate, but no.
That's when she first realized COVID-19 was a serious threat.
I kind of already knew because we watched TV, but we didn't think it was going to be something as big as it then became.
Like everyone else, we knew it was coming from a country far, far away, and we thought it would never reach here.
We also sat down with 26-year-old Olga Patricia at her home in Lamoille County, putting on her boots to start a day of work on the farm.
We work the same. Nothing has changed.
She's an undocumented migrant farm worker too.
I milk cows 3.5 hours and 1.5 hours of cleaning, with all the mess that cows leave behind, and 1.5 hours to clean everything.
According to Migrant Justice, about 20% of Vermont dairy farms are a part of their Milk with Dignity program, a program that helps ensure rights for farm workers.
Milk with Dignity right now is covering about 260 farm workers in the state, and 40 to 50 of them are women.
Working on a farm is a tough life, long hours and difficult conditions, but the women are facing challenges the men aren't, including gender discrimination.
For me, it was a lot harder to get a job.
And then they pay a lot less for a woman than a man, because in their crazy mind they think that a man should be making more than a woman, and that women can't do the heavy work like a man.
Migrant Justice says it's common for women to face discrimination
on Vermont farms.
Women will come looking for work and they won't be able to find it, or the work that they'll find doesn't pay as much, or they don't get the same hours as their male coworkers.
Every time we do a job, we have to defend ourselves more.
And just like the men they work beside, Yadira and Olga are here to send money home to Mexico to help their families while providing for their kids that they are raising in Vermont.
For us, it's more complicated because for us, we have a family to maintain here and then maintain a family back in the country where we come from.
All while worrying about their aging parents.
In Mexico, the pandemic isn't the only thing that's affecting us. It's also our parents because they're older adults and they get sick.
Olga continues her hard work as a farmhand, and Yadira is now running a small business selling her homemade food. For now, they are too afraid to leave their farms, but hope that changes when the pandemic is over. In the studio, Ike Ben David, Channel 3 News.